Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. Today is Thursday, December 23rd. We're going to go over our booms and bust. No, not booms and busts. Sorry. We're going to go over matchups previews for this week. Most playoffs, fantasy teams are in week 2 of playoffs right now, with the big matchup starting tonight with the 49ers at the Titans. I mean, really, the biggest thing there is AJ Brown's expected to play, so that'll be a big week. Outside of that, not a lot of news around the league right now. Just a bunch of COVID still going on. I know Chiefs were hit hard. Kelsey, Hill are big names that are out. Eckler also got added yesterday late to the list for the Chargers. You got Fournette and who else is there? Like the whole Buccaneers team is just
Godwin's out for the rest of the year. Brandon Cooks is on COVID.
Fournette is on IR. You just got a lot of people out with COVID and everything. So
Elijah Mitchell's still not playing on Thursday.
So I don't know, a lot to think of. The Browns games on Saturday, which is our first matchup here. Still unsure who's going to be playing for them this week. It's just a tough week, especially if you're a fantasy player and you're in that playoff push. Like, you don't really know who's going to be healthy, and if they are healthy, what's it going to look like. So we'll go ahead and dive into some of the matchup preview here. We got the Browns at the Packers Saturday game, Christmas game, 3:30. I feel like this is a Packers game they run away with. I just don't think there's any way you can get enough Browns players healthy and ready to go this week.
Yeah, I know a lot of them are starting to come back, but with just not being able to practice or do anything, and you don't really know how COVID affected them.
No.
Plus, the Packers are one of the hottest teams in NFL, 11-3, looking for that 1 seed. I don't see this being. It honestly could be because the Chiefs are weird, like not the Chiefs, but the Browns are weird like that. Like
where they play good or
they'll
something.
blow out the Bengals and then they'll lose to another team, like not a very good team. So it's very weird. But I honestly see this being an all Packers team, just running the ball. Rodgers, good, Adams, like we've seen all year. So yeah, I think there's not really much in this game. I think Packers run away with it.
Well, that's what I think. The biggest note here is if you're a Devontae Adams holder, I think you're kind of expecting a big game with MVS being out. But really, I think AJ Dillon's going to take over a lot of roles. I don't know if Aaron Jones is fully healthy yet. He was limited in practice again yesterday. So I don't know. I'm looking at this game for another AJ Dillon kind of carryway. But if you need a wide receiver outside of Valdez-Scantling, I think it goes Lazard probably. But really on the Brown side of the ball, I don't know. You got Landry, whose quarantine expires on Friday, so he's a question mark to play. But I think after showing yet last week, it looks like they want to get the ball into Donovan Peoples-Jones when Landry's not available. So I don't know, just tough matchup for the Browns. You're playing Chubb, and I think if Landry comes back, you got to play him. But really, it's Chubb, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, are the best options. And then you could look at Njoku being one of those flex plays late. But I'll be curious to see if Baker and what's his face come back this week or not. Well, Baker's also expires Friday, so he should be able to play, and they should have their team back. I'm not starting Baker. This defense is too good for the Packers.
I haven't been starting Baker all season. Yeah, it's not.
No, and that's it's crazy.
Yeah,
the Packers side of the ball, it's Dillon, Rodgers, Adams, and I think Lazard if MVS isn't playing.
Lazard I think is a really good start if MVS isn't playing. On the Brown side, I 100% agree with you. I think look at Peoples-Jones. Njoku had a good game last week. It kind of sucked he didn't get that touchdown. Bryant did. If that's Njoku, it's a whole different game. I think he's the go-to tight end for them. But with Mayfield back and everyone back, it's going to be pretty interesting. So I kind of go just Nick Chubb, and I think we probably have to start Landry just with injuries and COVID. But then
he's clear-cut number one there, so yeah.
Yeah. On the Packers side, you go Rodgers, Jones, Dillon, like you said, Adams. And if Scantling's not playing, you go Lazard. And you don't touch the tight ends or anything like that.
If I'm a Jones-Dillon holder, I think I'm probably playing Dillon over Jones this week just because it's kind of shown that they're going to kind of rely late on the run, especially if it's getting a little colder. Dylan has that Derrick Henry effect where no one really wants to tackle him. So then the second Christmas game, Saturday night game, which you have one of the hottest teams again with the Colts at Arizona, who Arizona coming off 2 losses in a row, one to the Lions, and then they lost the week before to a not great team, the Lions, and then the Rams. They lost a tough one at home. So this one here, I think it's going to be a close game. The Cardinals haven't looked great, and they've struggled stopping the run. Last week, they gave up 120-plus yards to Craig Reynolds from the Lions. Mm-hmm. So I think you expect Jonathan Taylor to have a huge outcome. I think Michael Pittman steps up and has a big game after last week, having kind of a down week. But really right now, I wouldn't trust too much of the Colts wide receivers because it's clear that they want to run the ball first. And I think they only let Carson throw the ball 5 times I think he threw it 12 times, but he was like 5 for 12 or something like that for 30-something yards.
For 50, yeah, it was like 50-something less than 60. It was crazy.
So to me, it's like Jonathan Taylor. The one plus side at receiver you can look at is Pittman, but really outside of that, it's pretty much Jonathan Taylor's show, and that's what they're going to ride with, I think, till the end of the year. So for the Colts, I'm not touching anybody. And the Cardinals, who struggled against the run last week, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it has to be Jonathan Taylor. There's not much else. It's crazy to think, though, the Colts have the most Pro Bowlers this year out of any team.
Their defense,
so you go ahead.
Their defense has just stepped up crazy. I'm watching that HBO, the thing in the midseason. I kind of forget they started out 1-4, and so they've just gone on a crazy run and just have taken over. I mean, they lost. They should be 9-5. You lost to a good Bucs team. You were up like 20 at half, and then they came back and let them win.
But the Ravens.
No, they did to the Bucs. They both of them actually. Then
because
the Bucs did it on that Sunday. They were up like 14-20, and then with the Ravens, they're up 21-2 or 18.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
okay, yeah. So they should be really 10-4.
Yeah, you're looking at 10-4 record. Top. This team is just rolling. And right now, I find it hard that the Cardinals are going to be able to stop Jonathan Taylor. This Colts O-line is just fantastic.
It's going to be they're running the ball the whole time.
Yeah, to me, it's Colts, Jonathan Taylor, and you can flex Michael Pittman, but I wouldn't feel too confident just because they're not having Carson Wentz throw the football a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pittman's been very disappointing the past few weeks, and then he got kicked out last week. So it's just added to that. So I agree with you, Jonathan Taylor. You got to play Pittman because you've seen games where he can get into the end zone. He has big games. They might be trying to stack the box, so it might open up a little bit more for Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Because
everyone's on Jonathan Taylor now. They saw what they did in the Patriots, who've been able to stop really like the main guys for each team. So I really think Jonathan Taylor and Pittman's all you can play, not touching Carson Wentz or anything like that.
Nope.
On the Cardinals side, was kind of surprised how much Chase Edmonds did play. I know
think
he's only
Connor's
on 40%.
Kind of got hurt.
Yeah, I think so too. So he was on 40% of the snaps, but they're both projected to play right now. James Conner did miss practice yesterday, and it's a heel. So
I think that's what it could be. One of those things, they might rest him for the next couple games coming up because they're fighting for that. I mean, you look at the NFC West; it's very capable. All these teams finish like 10-6, 11-6. It's the toughest division in football, I think. But yeah, James Conner, I think, is a huge question mark. Which, if he's not feeling fully healthy, but they play him, do you think he becomes more of just a touchdown reliance, or do you think it's kind of balanced, or do you think it's more Chase Edmonds and then James Conner for like short yardage situations?
Honestly, I can see him, especially if he's injured. It's going to be more just balanced. 44% for him, 37% for Chase Edmonds or snap count. So if he's not 100% healthy, I bet they just use him in the red zone. Chase Edmonds actually had a couple of good runs last game.
Yeah, they looked good last week.
So between that and then going on to the wide receivers, Christian Kirk got a bunch of targets. I think he's a must-start of wide receiver. So between that and then be using just kind of all their wide receivers now, they'll try to add more Rondale Moore. You saw them try to do that, and then plus Zach Ertz as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very balanced offense. It's going to be tough picking the one that's going to like score all the touchdowns and get a lot of the reps. So I believe you can play Connor, you can play Edmonds, but if they don't score touchdown, you might be a little bit disappointed.
Well, that's what, to me, I think Connor's one you got to watch closer this week just because of that injury. If he's not practicing on, I know Friday's usually the last day. If he gets in like a barely limited session or something, I would kind of play cautionary there. But like I said, his touchdown dependent is so big for him right now. He was just scoring touchdowns left and right. So, like you said, I like Edmonds. I like Connor. Personally, for me, I'm taking Green over Kirk just because I think Green is more dynamic. He's a guy that they can use in the red zone, fade guy, goal line. He's big player. But like I said, Christian Kirk had a lot of targets too. And then kind of I'm looking between Rondale Moore and Zach Ertz. I would trust Zach Ertz more than Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore was injured. He's questionable. He didn't practice yesterday with an ankle injury. So we're not sure if he will be playing this week. So to me, I think it's Green, Kirk, and Ertz are the big weapons that they have this week, and especially if Rondale Moore is hurt. So it's just something to keep an eye out for. And then another low flex guy was that Antoine Wesley. He had 8 targets last week for the Cardinals. So if Rondale Moore does get hurt and you need somebody, and with COVID and everything, I think Wesley could be a low and flex play too. So I feel like this game's gonna be very close. I don't know what's gonna be. It's gonna be Jonathan Taylor show versus what the Cardinals can do, and the Cardinals have played terrible at home, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the Cardinals have not looked good the past few weeks, especially last week. Everyone had them against the Lions. They're 12-point favorites. But yeah, it's going to be. I think they'll bounce back because I think they're in almost a must-win territory. If they can't win, I think the Rams are going to start pulling away from that division or take that lead, and then Arizona's going to be fighting for a wild card spot. I think they'll get the wild card, but you really want the division over the wild card because then you're playing all road games the whole playoffs. So, but if you're the Cardinals, you've looked a lot better on the road besides last week. So.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it'll be a bounce back. I think Kyler Murray will have himself a good game. I really like Zach Ertz, especially if Rondale Moore's not playing, like you said. I think they like to utilize him, especially in the red zone. I think he's been taken a little bit more away from AJ Green, so that's why Kirk's kind of more the dominant wide receiver with Hopkins out.
That's what I think. If James Conner doesn't play, I think it becomes a bigger weapon for Green and Ertz down in the red zone. So expect them to score. If Connor doesn't play, I expect them to look for them a lot. So then that was our last game on Christmas. Only 2 games this year, Christmas. I know last year we had the Christmas miracle with Kamara, 6 touchdowns. Man, whoever had him must have been feeling great. So maybe another touchdown miracle can happen this week for somebody. Let's go to Sunday matchups. Here we got first noon game. Detroit at Atlanta. Atlanta 6-8, a sneaky 6-8 team. They haven't looked terrible, but the biggest question mark here is the Lions have Jared Goff, who's on COVID, so he's probably not playing. So really, if I'm looking at the Browns, it's to me just like if you're playing somebody, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's kind of stepped up as of late. And then if Swift does come back, he's questionable. He did practice in limited fashion yesterday. I think it's Swift. And then to me, it's like Craig Reynolds maybe who's been carrying the workload for him if Swift doesn't play. But really outside of that, I'm not touching anybody from the Lions. It'd be Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, Williams actually was activated from the COVID list as well. So he'll be thrown in there. But I'm not playing him if Swift isn't playing because I bet they'll go half Williams, half Reynolds. Plus having
Reynolds
a backup
has proven
QB.
himself,
back with Goff being out, I think it's just Brown. That's the only person I'm touching if Swift's out. He's shown that he's been able to get the ball on the field a lot, having at least 11 targets the past 3 games. That's someone that you can rely on each week now. And Atlanta's defense is not very good against the pass, so I think it's going to be a great game for St. Brown.
Yeah, and then you're looking at the other side of the ball. I think this is a game. If you need a late quarterback play, Matt Ryan could step up here. The Detroit Lions pass defense is not great. So I think it's about 28th in the league right now. He's a guy I would play if I absolutely needed a quarterback last second. But outside of that, you're looking at Cordero Patterson for me. And then I think Kyle Pitts against Detroit Lions, tight ends wise. Detroit's just not good at covering the pass. I think this is a game where you see Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson kind of do their thing. I'm not touching anybody else. I know Russell Gage has really stepped up as of late. He had 12 targets last week. He's gone 18, 22, 10, and then 23 the last couple of weeks. He could be another flex option here, but you never know when that dud game's going to come. So
yeah,
to me, it's Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson, and then I think Russell Gage becomes a low end flex play this week, and that's pretty much it for me.
I think you can play Russell Gage. He's been very consistent with Matt Ryan. It looks like Matt Ryan's been liking to go to him more than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has been pretty disappointing. He only has one touchdown this season, so I think Russell Gage is really stepping up in that kind of Calvin Ridley role. He's not as talented as Ridley, but I really think Russell Gage could be a good flex spot for you. And then, Cordell Patterson. And you still got to go with Pitts just because of, you're just kind of waiting for that game. Yeah, you see that ceiling. So I think you go those three. And I like the Matt Ryan play. I think there maybe be a couple of other quarterbacks just because Matt Ryan has been very
up and down,
inconsistent, just had a really bad season. So I think there's other quarterbacks, but how many people are injured and everything like that, you might have to play Matt Ryan. And I think he'll have himself. He's not going to lose you this week. I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Not like this next quarterback coming up with Cam Newton. Carolina at Tampa Bay. It's just, I don't know. Carolina's, like we said, their numbers defensively are fantastic on paper, but in reality, they're not great. Especially when you lose Stephon Gilmore, it's always tough. But the Bucs they just signed Le'Veon Bell. This team is down bad. They've lost all top receivers and Godwin and their top running back in Fournette. You got Ronald Jones. Vaughn is the next guy up, but they did sign Le'Veon. But Antonio Brown is the big name that's coming back this week for the Bucs. So I'll be interested to see here. If I'm looking at this game, it's like running back wise, do you trust Ronald Jones to take over that number one role, or do you think it's going to be a running back by committee this week?
A lot of people are talking about Ronald Jones and if he should be a start or not, especially if he takes over that role that Fournette kind of took over, being in the past. I don't think so. I think they're going to use Vaughn a little bit more than people think.
I think so.
I'm passing on Jones this week. I think you might have to play him just because of the running backs that are hurt. And if you have Leonard Fournette, you don't have a backup, then I think that's when you have to play Ronald Jones.
I think he's a desperation play, no doubt, like you said, 100%.
Yeah. I think so too. But at the same time, I don't know. There just hasn't been, when the top player is gone or the top running back's gone out, there hasn't been a running back that's stepped up consistently. Like, I believe you have Madison and Tony Pollard. But after that, people that have been playing backup running backs, they've been pretty disappointing. Like
Chuba Hubbard, not great.
Yeah.
Jeff Wilson had a big game last week, but they also played the Falcons. So it is what it is right now. But like you said, I think Vaughn's going to be more involved than what people think. I don't think it's all going to be Ronald Jones. I don't think Arians trusts Ronald Jones yet. I think if Ronald Jones was on any other team, he'd be a solid number one or number two. But it's just right now he's not there. And I would expect AB to kind of step in this role and take over as the number one receiver this week, especially with Mike Evans being banged up as well. And he did not practice on Wednesday. So if he's out, I mean, it's Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, no doubt. You can even look at Cameron Brate to be involved a little bit more. But I like Ty Johnson if AB and Evans can't play. I think Tyler Johnson, or if Evans isn't playing, it's AB. I like Tyler Johnson to step up, kind of be that number two receiver for the Bucs for this week. But really, outside of that, it's a tough matchup overall. You got the Panthers D, who isn't fantastic. They are pretty solid against the run, so that's what worries me about Jones. But if I'm starting anybody on the Bucs with confidence, it's Brady, AB, Gronk, and then even low like a flex play. I like Tyler Johnson this week, especially if Mike Evans does not play.
Yeah, if Mike Evans not playing, you can't go to Antonio Brown the whole time. And like we talked about with Ronald Jones and Vaughn, I think Tyler Johnson does step up there. And I think he does get a good amount of targets. He had 7 last week and played 95% of the snaps.
Yeah.
And that was especially because he was playing before Chris Godwin got hurt, and then he got hurt, and now Mike Evans is hurt. So I don't see why he would get less snaps than that. So I think he's going to be on the field a ton. And Tom Brady's going to throw in the ball. I think Tom Brady does like him a little bit. So
young
between
guy.
Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, and then Gronk, it's you're playing Tom Brady still. He still has a ton of weapons. He's still a great quarterback. So he'll do what he use what he has, and he'll be great with it.
Yeah. So there. And then you're looking at the other side of the ball. This has just been question marks all year. I mean, outside, I know Newton started. I'm not playing him because Darnold's going to get some reps. Cam Newton has looked terrible. This defense is going to do something. They looked good against the Saints. When you hold an NFL team to 9 points, usually you expect to win. So the Buccaneers defense still good. Abdullah and Hubbard, I'm not touching at all. Bucs run defense is fantastic, and I feel like they're still going to continue to do that. The biggest question marks now come down to wide receiver play. You're looking at DJ Moore, who's expected to be a game time decision on Sunday. He injured his hamstring last week, but he did play the whole game. So I'm not sure what's happening there. To me, if DJ Moore's not playing, I think Robbie Anderson becomes a flex play and kind of a must start for this team because Tampa's not great against the pass, but they don't really have anybody else to throw the ball to in Carolina.
No, they don't. And Cam Newton's been liking Robbie Anderson.
Yes.
Has 20 targets the past 2 games. Still not catching a lot of balls. Not very, only had 3 catches and 8 targets. But Robbie Anderson did play.
I don't think that's
Robbie
all
Anderson played
DJ
100%.
Moore. Yeah. I don't think that's Robbie Anderson because, you look at DJ Moore, he's had 10, 11, and he has had 4 catches, 6. And it's just it's who's throwing him the football.
It's who's throwing the ball and how bad. Throwing the ball away, it's still considered a target if it goes over the wide receiver. So I get it, but I think Robbie Anderson's a play. Even with DJ Moore, I think I'm still playing Robbie Anderson.
I think so too right now, especially if it's Cam Newton because of what we've seen. I don't know, Panthers. You traded average quarterback for a below average quarterback, and you signed an even below average quarterback. So. The only plus side Cam Newton ever has is that he rushes for touchdowns. It is what it is. He's a rushing quarterback. He had 15 rushes last week. I would expect to kind of see that number.
I just don't get why they don't just use him in the red zone. It'd be a perfect, if they have PJ Walker or Darnold going down the field, but then Cam Newton in the red zone. That, when he gets in the red zone, he's scoring the ball a lot because they have to worry about the run. It's just getting to the red zone is where they really struggle, I feel like.
This team, to me, it's so many question marks. They started off 4-0. They're on fire. They did play bad teams to start, but you fired Joe Brady, who I don't think was the problem in Carolina. But that offense just looks terrible. You give him, to me, you give Joe Brady Sam Darnold, who clearly wasn't successful in New York. You could blame Adam Gase. Yeah, but I was never very big on Sam Darnold. I never thought Sam Darnold was the key to anybody's offense. And then you give him that, and then you go, oh, by the way, here's Cam Newton, who nobody wants to sign because he's out of his prime and he's done. His shoulder, it looks like he has to put every ounce of his body into a throw, and it's just terrible. So I don't trust it. Pretty much Panthers, it's just, like you said, we're looking at DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. If DJ Moore's not playing, I think Robbie Anderson becomes kind of a must start for this team. And then now slide into the next one. Big implications on this game. You got the Ravens at the Bengals, 8-6 here. Matchup, they're fighting for first place. I know the Bengals are in first place right now. You got a team for the Ravens who are still unsure of if Lamar's playing this week. He did not practice yesterday. So if he doesn't play, though, Tyler Huntley stepped in, did just fine against the Packers, who do have a solid defense. But really, if Tyler Huntley plays, I could throw him in at quarterback just because he does run the football. He's very similar to Lamar, but I think he might throw the ball a little bit more better than Lamar. So I like this week if Tyler Huntley does play, I would pick him up and plug him in against this Bengals defense, especially in a must-win game.
Yeah, Huntley showed last week against a good Packers team that he can run the ball, he can throw the ball, he can do a lot about what Lamar can do as well. So I would not if Lamar doesn't play, I'm playing Huntley. I would not worry about that.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a good play. So I think whoever is starting that quarterback should be in your offense, your starting quarterback.
Yep. And then I'm not touching anybody for the Ravens running back room. It's just terrible. They're all old. They're all past. They don't need to do anything. They're all backups that are playing. I think the one guy who should be playing isn't playing. That's Tyson Williams, but we're not in control of whatever that happens there. So, but last week you got the Ravens receiving core. Marquise Brown carried the load with 14 targets. He had 10 catches, but only 43 yards. Healthy. I expect to see him get a lot of target share again this week. So he's a must start. Rashad Bateman was the biggest kind of downfall here. He was on the field for 93% of the time. Only had 2 targets and 1 catch, though, which is kind of weird for Rashad Bateman. But I think with Huntley kind of being a new guy, he's looking for 2 people. It's Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, clearly right now. So Bateman's kind of on the outside looking in. He's a low and flex play this week for me. But Mark Andrews has taken over. He is the number 1 weapon that they have on offense. He's just been putting up numbers that are crazy over the last 2 games. He's had 240 plus receiving yards. And then he's had a touchdown in each game in the last 2. He had 2 last week. He's taken over that number 1 tight end spot, and it's shown why. The Ravens love to throw him the ball, and I think for the Ravens right now, it's Huntley, Andrews, Brown, and then Bateman's a low flex play.
Yep, I 100% agree. I think Bateman's not going to be having that bad of a game. He's not going to go for 1 for 2. Andrews and Marquise Brown had 27 of the 39 targets. So yeah, Huntley loves to go to them, but I think this Bengals team are going to be able to kind of stop that a little bit and make Huntley throw to other wide receivers. So I think Bateman's going to have a better game. So I'm still playing him in that low flex. But yeah, you have to play Brown. You have to play Andrews just because how much they get the ball and how much Lamar and Huntley love them. It doesn't really matter who's that quarterback. Sometimes you have to worry about that with wide receivers. But both quarterbacks have shown they love throwing the ball. Each of them the ball. So I wouldn't worry about having to sit them no matter who's that quarterback.
Nope. And then the other side of the ball, you get the Bengals here. Joe Mixon, who's kind of been a question mark of health over the last couple days. He did practice on Wednesday, and they think he's feeling good. You got to play him just because of the ceiling potential with him. Joe Burrow, I think, is a start as well. And then you look at the receiving core. You can make an argument for all 3 of these guys playing each week. They're all on the field. I know Boyd's probably on the field the least amount, but Jamar Chase is a clear-cut deep ball guy, the one who we're looking for, the playmaker. Higgins, I think, is probably the best receiver overall between the 3. He's just probably the do-it-all kind of guy. And then Boyd, who's stepped up lately, they love to throw the ball to him. And I feel like the tension's growing on Chase, which leaves Higgins and Boyd to have more opportunities. So I like all 3 wide receivers this week, especially if you're looking at flex and if you're in the 2 flex league. I think it's a must play for all 3 of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's Chase and Higgins. Chase has been on the field over 95% of the time for most games. Higgins and Boyd both had 87%. So all 3 wide receivers are on the field at all times. They're all going through wide receivers with Mixon. But then you got to remember, Uzomah had that big game against the Ravens the last time they played. So I don't see that happening again because I think there's maybe a little bit of luck into that. And I think Tyler Boyd's really stepped up lately. So I could almost see Tyler Boyd taking over that role, maybe having a couple lucky throws there to get a touchdown like he's had the past few games. So I would play all 3 wide receivers. I think Boyd and Bateman are good like flex plays for you.
Yeah.
And I think they're when the top wide receivers are not getting the ball or covered, I think they're good playmakers if they get the ball to do something with it. But yeah, you also got to keep playing Joe Mixon. He had that streak of scoring 2 touchdowns for like 5 straight games or 6, something like that. Fallen off the past 2 weeks, but I think he's been a little bit injured. So if he's healthy, I can see him definitely playing this week and getting a good amount, and hopefully he gets into the end zone again.
Yep, and that's what I think this game's going to be. I don't know. Last time they played, I think it was pretty low scoring, if I remember right. Or I don't.
No, Bengals scored a lot of points, especially in that second half. Remember, Uzma had
Ravens didn't do anything. It was a whooping. Yep, I remember that now. So yeah, I think this is a big game. So I think they have to pretty much gonna pull whatever they can to win it, because right now that division is super close. I mean, the first place team is 8-6, and the last place team is 7-7 in the Browns. So to me, this division's wide open. You need as many wins as you can. So the next matchup here, we got the Chargers at the Texans. To me, Eckler is COVID, so he will be out probably for this game. But you're looking at Keenan Allen, Mike Williams stepping up, being the big options this week. If you're looking at a running back to pick up, I think it's going to be between Justin Jackson, Josh Kelly. Justin Jackson has kind of shown that he's more the secondary back, and then Josh Kelly's the third string back. But you never know with backups how they're going to rotate them. But I think if there is one play over the other, to me, it's Justin Jackson over Josh Kelly.
Yeah, if Eckler's out, honestly, I would probably, if you had like the waiver wire, I'd pick Ronald Jones over Justin Jackson or Kelly, just because I think they're both going to be like 50-50.
50-50.
I think especially when you get into the red zone, I can see Kelly getting the ball a little bit more there. And so you're not going to get the same workload like Eckler does usually out of that backfield. So that's going to be a tough one. But like you said, I would go Jackson just because you see him get the ball more. Mm-hmm. But when you get into the red zone, you might see Kelly in there a little bit more, and that can be kind of worrisome if you're having to sit Eckler and play Jackson. But yeah, but other than that, you go Keenan Allen, you go Mike Williams. Stay away from Jared Cook. You just never know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
he's very tough. Up and down. Is Parham supposed to be back?
I don't think so. I'm sure he's still in the concussion protocol.
Him to score. Yeah,
he did practice. I don't think he's going to play. Like, it's pretty tough when you get knocked out cold to come back the next week.
Yeah, I can see him taking a few weeks off. They had him on here. They had him projected as like playing. That, I'm like, what in the world?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's. Then you look at another receiver here we can talk about real fast. Josh Palmer. I know he's a rookie. He stepped up against the Giants. Didn't do much against the Chiefs, but against a bad Texans team. Would you maybe flex him in there, kind of keep away from it?
I wouldn't. Something would happen with Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. I think you look at it, but you're just pretty much wondering if the Chargers can just pull ahead and then Mike Williams and Keenan Allen don't play. That's a lot to ask for just to play this guy. So you never know. He might score touchdown. He scored touchdown 2 weeks ago, had that 7 targets, but Keenan Allen was out then, I'm pretty sure. One of them was out, I thought. So when both are playing, he doesn't really get the ball. So I'm not playing him right now. But if you're in those super deep leagues where it's like 12, 14 teams and it's a lot, like he could play because you've seen him get a good amount of targets in case one of those two go down.
And then you're looking at the Texans. I'm not touching anybody now that Brandon Cooks is out. It's just
there's nothing really to talk about there.
Nope. So pretty much all Chargers there. Like I said, I think it's interesting what they're going to do with the running backs. I don't think Justin Jackson becomes a clear-cut number one. I think, like you said, it's going to be a 50-50 kind of split for him. And then you look here, we got Rams at Minnesota. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, like really high. Minnesota, you're playing your usuals. Cook, Jefferson. If Thielen plays, I think you plug him in. If not, I think Osborne becomes another must-start this week.
Yep.
And then you're looking at the other side of the ball. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, hopefully, he slows down this week, but he won't. Yeah. Odell is going to, as well. And then Van Jefferson, I think this is a big week for all of the players this week. for the Rams, wide receiver core wise. Vikings are not great against defensively, and the Rams just a little to throw the ball. So I think it's a big game for all three of those Rams wide receivers. Personally, Michelle Henderson, what are you looking at here this week for those two?
This one's super tough. Like last week, it was more Michelle, 72%, Henderson,
Yeah.
27. But I don't know. He's been the hot hand. Why stop going to him? Henderson, before he got hurt, was pretty disappointing. He scored a touchdown against Green Bay, but like without those touchdowns, he doesn't have good games. His last good game was Week 8 against Houston. So I think they're going to go with the hot hand. It's tough to play Michelle because if Henderson's a little bit more healthy, it might be more 50-50. But right now, you can't play Henderson. I don't think you can.
I don't think so either.
If you're going to play anyone, you got to play Michelle.
Michelle, because I agree. He's looked great. It's a tough one, like I said, because you don't know what Rams running backs are going to do each week. It's the toughest thing. Unless it was Cam Akers, I don't think any of them are going to be, especially with how Michelle's been playing, none of them are going to solidify themselves as clear-cut number one. To me, it's like you said, Sony Michelle is a big play this week, I think, over Henderson. And we could be wrong, but I just feel like Michelle, like you said, is the hot hand. Are you going to touch Kirk Cousins at all this week?
I don't. I think, honestly, I might play Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I honestly probably not. I want to, but then I saw last weekend's Bears threw 12 for 24, 87 yards. Still had 2 touchdowns, but it's because of the Bears beating themselves.
Yeah.
Vikings didn't have that good of a game offensively. The Rams have a pretty good defense. They've given up some pretty good offensive plays. And to be honest with you, this is the game Kirk Cousins go off. He doesn't make any sense. Against the bad teams, he doesn't look good. But when he gets into these games where he's not favored,
he needs to perform.
It's the games that's the games where he does really good. So
I think a big key here is they're at home too.
Yeah, I think I would play him. Like I would take him over Matt Ryan. But I think that's where you kind of have the cutoff there. Yeah, I think there are still better plays, but I think Kirk Cousins has been there. And he's not playing prime time or anything like that. This is a game for him to really show out. So I can see that happening. So yeah, I think I'd play Kirk Cousins, not over like Matt Stafford or anything. But if you're looking at like Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, what are you doing, Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson?
I like Kirk Cousins more than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I was thinking they're playing the Bears. So like
Russell Wilson to me is very overhyped, overrated.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that.
Kirk Cousins, you're going to get what you get. I think this is a game where they have to utilize Justin Jefferson a lot more. And with Thielen comes back, especially, I think you see Justin Jefferson kind of go back into his old role. But it's going to be tough with Jalen Ramsey playing on him. But like you said, I think this is a game where Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins things and steps up and makes huge game. He has like 280 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 to Jefferson, 0 to Thielen, 1 to Osborne, which would be great. So that's just there. I think this will be a close game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game as well. Then the last game here for our preview for part 1, you got the Bills at the Patriots. Patriots coming off a loss last weekend. Bills coming off a win last weekend over the Panthers. It's your normal. They kind of have said the Bills came out and said they trust Devin Singletary to be their lead back. This was the first clear-cut game. He was the number one. He had 93 snap percentage, 22 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Do you see this continuing this week against Patriots?
Nope, I do not.
No,
I think Jonathan Taylor may be exposed, even though Jonathan Taylor, like, he had 100 yards. He had 100 yards before that big run.
But they threw the ball 12 times.
They threw the ball 12 times. And that defense, there was a lot of special teams, a lot of defense.
Yeah.
I think they're still pretty good against the run. The Patriots probably had a better practice. You know, we had Mac Jones coming out saying they didn't take advantage of the bye week, had a bad practice. I think they're going to come out here. They're going to stop the run. I believe the Patriots are going to win this game. We'll get into that when we do gambling, but I don't know what the line is, but I do think the Patriots win this game at home.
Yeah, it's
I
two and
don't
a
think
half.
the Bills. I don't think the Bills are going to do anything this game. I think you got to start Josh Allen, but I'm not touching the running backs, and I think you just got to play the 2 wide receivers, and that's it.
That's what
I don't
I'm
even know if
staying away
I'm
from.
not. I don't even know I'm playing Knox this week.
I
It's
would play Knox.
would
Knox
you?
is just because he's on the field so much and he's worked into this role of being a guy for them. So I would play Knox. Gabriel Davis stepped up that number 2 right now. Diggs, you're playing both those guys.
And Beasley's out this week too.
Beasley's out as well. So to me, I'm not touching Singletary like you said. I think the Patriots defense comes down. I think this becomes, if anybody's running the football, it's Josh Allen. And then you're looking at the Patriots side of the ball. It's a tough game here. I think Hunter Henry is really the only must start for me this week for the Patriots. I know Harris and Ramondre had big games last time they played, but I think it's they split too much right now, and I wouldn't trust either one to be the main guy right now. So really, I think I'm just playing Hunter Henry this weekend. That's it. That's all for me for the Patriots.
Yep. Stevenson had everyone that was their must start. They thought he was just going to run all over the Colts and just laid a dud. I think Bolden scored more points than he did last week. Yeah, Bolden had 3 catches, ran the ball 4 times, had 7 points. Stevenson only had 5 points. So,
and right now
Harris
he's
being
sick
back
and
there,
didn't practice yesterday.
Well, right now I can't play the running backs. They're so up and down.
You can't
really you're just pretty much just picking one. But yeah, I think you can't play Jacoby Myers. He keeps being projected high, but doesn't do anything with it.
Well, this is my counter argument.
He had 12. He did have 12 targets last week, 6 catches, but only for he's on the field a lot though. That's the only thing.
This is my counter argument to that this week. You got Bourne, COVID. Okay. Aguilar had a concussion, did not practice yesterday. So he is very questionable return. Harry, who has a hip injury, he's also questionable. He was limited in practice the other day. So really, maybe Jacoby Myers' process of elimination is now the best option they have, and the only weapon that they can really trust to throw the football to, outside of Hunter Henry and maybe Jonnu Smith. I just talked myself into liking Jacoby Myers to be that sneaky flex play start this week.
Yeah, I think since you settled that, they said Bourne can play this week. There is a chance, but if he doesn't, I think Myers. But then at the same time, that's when you need to pick a running back for them. They're just going to run the ball. I just don't know which one to pick. I would guess Stevenson, just because Harris has been out and he's still limited at practice.
Yeah.
But Stevenson's been sick now with COVID, but he's been out of practice on one. So that's a tough one. I feel like you have to play one. I just don't know. I would vote Stevenson to pick one, but there's a good chance Harris goes off. There's even a good chance Bolden takes a lot more reps. I don't even know.
That's what I'll be interested to see what happens. I'm not really sure what it's going to look like for him. But yeah, so I don't know. It's the Patriots are always an interesting team. It's so hard having one of their guys on fantasy because you never know what it's going to look like. So, but yeah, so that's our part 1 preview matchup here. Now let's go ahead and dive into some of our gambling. We're going to go ahead and give you our favorite, our underdog pick for this week, and then a lock. I'll go ahead and start. My favorite pick for this week is actually going to be. They moved this line. It's actually going to be. I'm going to take the Eagles -10 this week at home against the Giants, who might be starting Mike Glennon and or Jake Fromm. Not really sure who, but I like the Eagles. Defenses look great. They've looked good offensively. I like Eagles -10 at home against the Giants.
Against the Giants, yeah, I like that too. I'm actually my favorite's going to be the Saints -2.5 against the Dolphins. Dolphins have been on that long run of winning games against not very good teams. They're finally going to run to a defense on the road Monday night. I think the Saints take care of them. Doesn't matter who's really playing a quarterback. I think Taysom Hill is going to lead them. It's going to be a low-scoring game, but I think the Saints defense is going to shut down Tua. So I like them as my favorite.
That's why it's tough. I mean, you look at the The Dolphins, I think, are 7-7 now. They were at 2-5 at one point, or 2-6. They've gone on a huge streak too. So it'll be interesting to see there. My underdog pick for this week to win the game, or even cover the spread. I like Bears plus 6.5 against Seattle.
I really like that too.
I know it's tough. Rookie quarterbacks going into Seattle doing whatever, but Seattle's offense to me is just, I don't even know. It is what it is. Matt Nagy still stupid and whatever, but Justin Fields has kind of stepped into a role as he's not playing terrible for a rookie with a guy like Nagy as his OC and as the head honcho there. So I really like the Bears. I think they're going to cover this week plus 6.5 in Seattle.
Yep, that's a good one too. I think I can see that happening. My underdog in spread is actually going to be the Ravens plus 3 at the Bengals.
I was debating that one this week as well.
I think what happened is the Packers, they should have won that game. They're going to be pissed, especially what the Bengals did to them at home. I think they're going to go into Cincinnati, and I think they're going to win that game no matter who's starting at quarterback. They're going to take that lead in that AFC division.
I agree. That's what I think. The Ravens, they just do too much offensively, and I think it's hard to hold them down, beat them twice in 1 year. John Harbaugh needs to quit going for 2 sometimes and just maybe go for OT, and you had all the momentum in the world. Take that into OT and try to win the game if you get the ball first. So I like that pick this week. My lock this week was actually going to be the Patriots -2. I like them a lot. I like them at home against the Bills. I like the Bills a lot. Big fan of the Bills, but the way the Patriots are playing and with what the Bills are doing on offense and the COVID, I think the Patriots at home, coming off a bad loss last week too in New England when they were rolling, I like Patriots at home.
Yeah, that's actually my lock too, is Patriots -2. I think what happened to them against the Colts really made them mad. Supposedly they didn't have good practices on the off, so I think they'll come out. I'll give a second pick though, just kind of change it up. I'm actually liking Raiders +1 at home. I think they're going to beat the Broncos. Drew Lock is starting. I do not like Drew Lock whatsoever, and I think the Raiders win that game at home. So Patriots are my lock as well, but just to give an extra pick, the Raiders at home +1.
Yep,
would be my backup lock.
That's what. Yeah, I can't stand Drew Lock. Mizzou guy, hate Mizzou, so it is what it is. But yeah, those are our picks for this week. Do you have any other like over-unders you want to go over that you think might happen, or another?
Be honest with you, I haven't been touching the over-unders at all because
I need to. Last week, I think a lot of them went over, and that's what I was thinking. It's just these totals are so weird. I mean,
I'm going to pick one: the Lions and Falcons over 42.5.
My one is going to be Pittsburgh KC over 44.5.
That's
I know
crazy.
Chiefs defense has been good, but yeah, it's to me. Well, the Giants Eagles are 40.5. I mean, we saw the Eagles.
Well, the Saints and Dolphins, like you've seen them put up points. It's 38.5 on Monday night. That's crazy.
Like that. I feel like they're going to score a lot of points. I would take the over there. I think.
Yeah.
The
highest one I think is the Rams Vikings 49.5.
Yeah, because you got 49.
49
touching that 50. And then tonight's game is 44.5. I don't know. I like the Titans tonight. I think Titans win too. So
I think so too.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, so this is part 1 of our preview matchup. That was our gambling, the picks for our favorite underdog locks, and then we will catch you guys on the next episode of preview matchup. Thanks for watching, like, and subscribe if you haven't. But we appreciate all the support. Deuces.
See ya.